stack, okay?
Yeah.
Lilia.
Nice.
Can we Nash?
Solar flare down, Alvaro cut down, arrow to follow, connecting on Elio, into the damage coming in, and here comes the cavalry, 007, calling it mom, the ulti not gonna cut consumer, they've got so many subs up and available, Mickey, the perfect angle, anticipates the backstep, Hansama cutting them down.
And welcome back to this lower bracket finals here as G2 is the first team taking us to match point here. And guys, I love the different approaches we have coming up for both teams, but also the fact that they can adapt game after game after game. And here, MDK, another new approach, but on the side of G2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of fits the same stylistic though, right? If we look at damage profile, the Yone comes in instead of the Ezreal, and it's the Lily instead of the Ivern. But for G2, they just said, I mean, we don't want to change anything.
Yeah.
We like what we had, and they can continue to do so. I really think it's on MDK to target some of these champions that G2 have found so comfortable right now in their draft.
Well, G2 didn't really change anything. It was
They didn't.
It was a copy paste from draft from game 2. But MDK, I do like that they recognize that they really need a little bit more engage, a little bit more skirmish, because this composition they had in game 2 with three marksmen and Ivern didn't work. So now they're opting for the Yone and the Lilia, where they're like, we can brawl a little bit more. We're sacrificing our scaling, but I still feel like it wasn't enough.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Are they struggling to find the right answers against G2, or is it the execution in game afterwards that is not working here, Broxa?
Well, I think it's really a little bit of both, but more than anything, MDK went into the first game saying, we expect you to draft in the same way, we're going to come in with some counters and a different approach. Unfortunately for them, it didn't go the way they wanted it to, and everything pretty quickly collapsed. So I think we're going to see them adapting in draft, but also in terms of gameplay, because G2 quickly is putting their foot in the gas pedal, gets a lead big enough for MDK to just fall out of the game immediately.
Yeah, but I do have to say, I think it's also being made a bit more easy for them now. Broken Blade is clearly comfortable just being on K'Sante, soaking up whatever pressure that Meowin is throwing out, and he's throwing out the Smolder as well to just get 3 stacks, while Mickey's getting banned out, but there's still so many supports to make it so much easier. I think you can start pinpointing the K'Sante. I think you can start pinpointing Yike on the brand as well, because it makes the game too easy for G2.
I think Mickey has been absolutely stellar in these Rakan games, but the issue is even if you ban that away, there's still something like the Alistar, the Rel, the Nautilus.
Yeah, but even then, like, look at here, Rel, now he's still got it all. You can't ban him out.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like, you can't ban him out, and if he keeps performing in this way, it's so difficult for the backline, for someone like Super, who was performing really well in game 1, to actually do his thing and take over games.
The problem is that right now there are just way too many supports open. Even if you drop the Renata ban for a Rakan or for an Alistar ban to stop the engage, all of a sudden, with this sort of team comp, even if Renata comes through, we will see a completely different game, but still G2 side. I like what GB said. We really need, or like I'm MDK right now. We really need to take off BB of the K'Sante and Yike of the brand, because at least one of these two needs to go, because these champions are reactive champions. They're just so good at answering anything that MDK throws at them. And MDK thrived when there was chaos and they were setting up these unconventional traps in places where G2 didn't expect.
I love what you're saying, but let's follow up on this a bit later, because I want to talk about what happened in game first, because there was they had 2 different ways of splitting the map, with G2 focusing more on top side while MDK was focusing on bot lane. But who benefited the most from this map split here?
I mean, I gotta say, I actually think MDK was very happy about how the early game came through. In this situation, yeah, Meowin dies, but the TP still comes through to enter the wave. It's a neutral state in mid lane, but it's a different story down in the bot side for G2, where they definitely overinvest with try and protect this. You can see the TP comes through now from Caps, but he's just gonna instantly die.
Yeah, it's a very difficult position for G2 here, where the top lane play was so slow. Mervin bought a lot of time to Smolder, and it took forever to kill him. Caps TP spot to try to assist Broken Blade, dies immediately. Broken Blade then comes back, and this was, you know, a rare moment of G2 not being fully on the same page.
Which is something that came online later on, I feel, especially when it comes to the objective setups, because G2 had to be really wary and careful of the setup on the side of FDK, what Yone is capable of doing, the fact that Lilia can flank and basically nullify the whole thing. But the way G2 played around the objective is basically what gave them the edge, I feel, and where they've been better than MDK here.
It's exactly, because they have this sort of flexibility. When you have Rakan and K'Sante, all of a sudden you have 2 big space makers. And right now, Yone is not... Yone and Smolder are not even in the fight. They're just looking to still come and set up the objective, but Rakan just pulls the trigger so incredibly well, and that's why it's so important to give props to Mickey.
Yeah, again, Mickey and the Rakan, it's something that, you know, will continue to be a problem. At the same time, Alvaro, at his best, has been able to find similar openings, and I think ultimately for MDK, just make changes in terms of draft, like you said, getting rid of the Rakan, getting rid of Rel could lead to something like a Renata, a completely different approach, because this ball game is working for G2, you're not going to beat them.
Before focusing just on the draft, is there anything in-game that they should refine based on the fights that we saw and the setups that G2 has been able to build here this game and the advantage that they took from it?
Well, even if you look at the next replay, the way MDK always tried was that they would always look for these unconventional traps. They would trap you when you're looking to walk into the jungle. Right now, they're not even trapping you in the jungle. They're trapping you on the lane that you actually have prio on, and they're making this silly trap in the lane. You don't have numbers. You don't have smolder TP. When MDK looks good is when they trap you around the mid lane. When you come in to get control, and you're catching either Mickey or Yike walking in without the numbers advantage. That's how MDK won the week before.
Another issue is that the frontliners are often forgetting to take Super's position into account. So often this Misfortune that was hard carrying in game 1 is being flanked. In this fight we just saw, she was dealing with the Cassandra. Like, Super can't actually walk off without being engaged on or flanked. And this is a massive, massive problem, because at the end of the day, if you keep taking fights where your strongest member can't freely hit, you're just not going to come out on top.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's also just a lot of the decision-making going into it from the drafting perspective, but also to how they actually then get themselves ahead, because 2 times we actually have found MDK in a semi-winning condition that they could translate better into the mid-game, but they failed to do so, and it's been G2 that's just winning out on the macro. So it's so difficult right now to sit there and say to your team, we need to do these things differently, because you got your ingrained habits from scrims, you got the things that work for you until now. You might have to change everything just to make it work against G2, because when it comes to the macro, G2's just been coming out on top.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Are they going to change everything? Because they trust their approach. Sticking to red side in the next game, I feel, is what they need to do here, especially kind of when it comes to G2. But you got to cut some stuff in the draft from G2, as we said, but also hoping that they have a third trap card here, because this approach so far is not working at all.
Definitely not, because, yeah, everything they've thrown so far hasn't been really good, but you can go ahead.
Nidalee top.
Ooh.
It's time.
Is it time?
I think so.
Is it time, GB, for
There's
Nidalee
a
top?
big red button, and I wonder if it says Nidalee top on top of it. You never really know, but I don't even think like it's that good into the K'Sante, for example. So I think it's about finding that perfect spot for it, where you know you can get ahead in the laning phase, and then actually utilize that to bleed your priority into the rest of the team, because the Nidalee can't carry late game. It needs someone stepping up with it as well.
And looking at G2 here, on the verge of getting yet another final against Fnatic here, do they stick to the same approach? And what do you want to see from them if MDK ends up banning the champions that we mentioned here?
Well, that's a little bit tough, because the K'Sante for me is the wonder pick right now. The K'Sante and Brand are both great. So in game 1 we saw the Renekton blind pick, it didn't really work so well, and I feel like it takes away such a huge power pick from G2, so that's why I'm like, G2 will for sure stick to the same thing, because they get a lot of scaling right now with the Corki Brand and K'Sante, so I'm like, why change it?
Ball is in their court. Let's see what MDK can come up with as we're gonna head to the casters for the next game. Over to you guys.
It's a good question, Laura, if anyone can cook on this stage, but it's MDK. We'll see if the big red button does indeed say Nidalee top. It could say something else. The best and worst part of scouting both these team solo queues is it could be troll, it could be just for solo queue, or it could be a meta revolution, you know, and anything in between. But now, again, G2 returning to the blue side, MDK again choosing red. Thus far, the ban's the same. What will MDK change this time? G2 under no pressure yet to adjust their strategy.
We're seeing the exact same stuff coming through by Maokai. Rel more than likely going to be the last one. And now, is there some sort of mix-up on MDK's side? Or do they just continue with the same bands and say, look, we're actually just going to try and prioritize different picks coming into K'Sante taken away? Okay.
I like it. It removes that safe blind from BB, gives Myrwn a better opportunity to get that counter pick, potentially Nidalee top, depending on how he's feeling, but the Corki priority unlikely to shift away. The Ezreal is, of course, still available. Oh, but they're just going to go for the Yone. And they're going to deny the Ashe away from G2, taking that away from Handsama.
I think this is a good play. A lot of what we've seen is that G2 have been able to opt out of team fights because they've had this Ashe to look for picks. So saying, hey, look, we want to try and take that tool away and try and see if we can make that a little bit more difficult to play for these side lane controls that G2 have been going for.
The vision control you get with Hawkshot as well is incredibly good at stopping any of the fast plays that Mad Lions Koi were very comfortable with in so many of their series. But now Jhin coming out for Handsama, not the MF as you'd expect, opting to match some of the utility Ashe brings to the table with utility of his own.
And that's what I like about bringing these AD carries to the table. It's the fact that you can now go, okay, well, we don't have to take a tank engage jungler. Maybe we don't even have to go for something tanky and engage oriented in the top side, because Jhin can follow up on a lot of what Mickey X wants to do and provide that secondary engage tool. Same goes for the Ashe, but the preemptive Braum here is super interesting, because essentially calling the bluff of what we just said, we know Mickey has to go for some sort of engage tool to set you guys up, so we're going to take the Braum away and see what you have left in that champion pool, Mickey.
And they immediately banned the Rakan as well. It's been a great champion for Mickey. I mean, even historically, when we think of European supports, Hylissang Rakan, Mickey Rakan, they were always champions that these players were able to find success on. The Varus continues to be removed on the side of G2. Mad Lions, something like the Renata, perhaps. Maybe they want to get rid of Nautilus Leona, depending on what they're thinking Mickey will likely go for.
I'm actually curious if it could be a Poppy. Just because you are already kind of saying, look, we have the Yone, chances are we're going to play some sort of dive, and Mickey's Poppy has been a big threat in those sort of situations. It would mean you are heavily reliant on Broken Blade to bring some sort of engage to the table, but even a Renekton in this sort of situation could be enough to try and set you up.
And interesting, of course, that they opted to ban the Nautilus. You could have gone for the Rakan and the Renata, but with the Braum on the table, they feel pretty confident they can deal with what Renata brings. So instead, getting the Nautilus off the board. Still waiting to see what that engage pick is going to be. And it's a difficult situation. Going in onto a Braum, Ashe feels terrible unless you know you have the kill pressure. The concussive blow is so incredible at punishing and stopping you from being able to get out in an extended trade. Kennen will be banned away as well. Now the hover for Mad Lions Koi, potentially looking to simplify their draft strategy. Get something reliable, get the safe engage. It was the Maokai in game 1 that made their lives easy, and now it's the Sejuani in game 4.
Yeah, they're feeling a little bit hot under the collars. You know, as Jay goes mutes the
wrong button. My bad.
But it's good. I think you got a ton of engage, a great amount of CC, a lot to play around here as Mad Lions Koi, but is there going to be some sort of mix-up coming through from G2? Do we get the Seraphine again for Mickey? He brought it out already against the Braum, and it worked out great.
Odo said, when you need to cleanse, you know,
I like
the
this
support
more.
sins, you go for the Seraphine, but
I genuinely do like Leona more. Seraphine is good into Braum, like Karma is as well. He can really just do nothing to shut you down. But Leona, I think they need that engage and that follow-up in particular. Aatrox has become their default other blind pick, so G2 have drafted themselves, honestly, a very strong team fight comp. They've got powerful lanes that they can look to play around as well, a lot of potential setup. But this final pick from MDK is going to determine a lot.
An AD carry could work for Mirren in that top lane if he wants to try and go for something a bit nutty, because I think Aatrox not one that does well against him, but actually they're going to bring out the Gwen as well, so going to try and set up for a very heavy top side that if you get a lead on either side can break.
And Gwen, of course, in this position, when you have so much CC elsewhere on the map, I think is much more set up for success. The early lane we'll have to keep track of, but as you go later in the game, the Jhin, the Corki, the Brand all want to operate at such long range. It's going to be really difficult to handle the miss there, but we'll see. We saw the Gwen very easily dismantled by Mad Lions Koi in game 1 when they were able to build a significant lead. Maybe G2 can do the same.
I think Mad Lions Koi have great side lane threats. They have good potential scaling with both the Gwen and the Yone. They have pick potential with Sejuani plus Ashe. They have good follow-up utility thanks to the Braum. You can see all of the pieces coming together. The concern I have is, what about the early lane control? So far in the last 2 games, G2 have just dominated by playing better patience with their pushing lanes, converting that into vision, and then setting up for objectives, and then catching MDK off, catching them inside lane, leveraging this Ashe. But of course the Ashe gone, that's going to be harder, but Jhin Leona still has those tools to be able to catch you in a side lane. So I feel like that while I do quite like the pieces that MDK have for potential playmaking, pick potential, and overall objective setup, I'm concerned around whether they'll be able to execute upon it, and they'll have to show me that they can to bring us to game 5.
Yeah, I mean, if you enter into a mid-game that is relatively even, I really like the non-committal engage that MDK have gone for with an Ashe Arrow, the Sejuani. You'll just fish for plays and see if you can make it happen, otherwise just back it off. But as Veddy was saying, I agree, the control that G2 have in this early stage, especially kill lane boss, good push in mid, it's kind of setting up for a very similar story of how we've seen G2 run away with game 2 and 3.
And we'll need to see what Hans Sama looks like on the Jhin in the context of this 2v2. Champion that has been pretty feast or famine. Often an indicator that the team wants to play elsewhere on the map is the Jhin. Pretty self-sufficient in the early stages. G2 keeping their eye on any potential creative level 1s coming in from MDK. Have to respect the CC Sejuani brings. He's surprised to see a lot of early Merc treads on this map. Despite the 80 damage present, there's just so much CC, tenacity, incredibly high value.
I do think there is a world, though, where G2 do actually try and play around this Jhin a little bit, just because you are so aggressive in these early stages with the Leona. A ton of kill pressure because of that initial damage. So there is a lot to be concerned about if you're Super and Alvaro. You have to make sure you're playing relatively safe here.
No. No, we're
For context, I'm sitting on a box right now.
It's a fantastic box.
It's
It is a
great
great
box.
I've got a fan next to me.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable.
It's good.
But the ultimate question, the age-old question, do casters deserve chairs? We'll never know.
We'll never know. This series will not tell us. You'll have to tune in for Worlds 2024.
Look at the bot lane. Notice that Super and Alvaro got position in this very deep brush. Remember that it was the meta to fight over this brush for a while. Hans using the minion wave as a kind of wall. But they're suspicious. Here we go.
One auto. Concussive blows, the Braum passive. Really the big thing that matters here. Hansama already marked up. Mickey trying to stop Alvaro from getting any further. 2, 3, and 4. This is a massively MDK paper trade thus far, but the Cleanse now coming in. Super taking a decent amount of damage. 4 shot. Evening things up a bit, but Hansama still taking damage. Finally able to reload. Mickey full committing here. No Ignite to finish the kill. Hansama wants the 4 shot. There it is. One left in the chamber. Puts it to work.
A beautiful 4th shot from Hansama, showcasing the artwork that Jhin was designed for all along. They get themselves first blood for G2 at match point.
Yeah, my 4th shot is better than your 4 stacks, lads. The cleanse was perfect from Hansama, buying that space, getting away from all the follow-up that MDK wanted to go for. And now with the wave pushed in as well, Super's going to lose so much on this.
The idea behind Braum in these early skirmishes is to give you so much additional power thanks to that passive. But Jhin using the cleanse. I was skeptical of the flash from Mickey, but Hansama, it was just setting up for the play. Now we turn our attention to top.
Broken Blade level 2. Tamir One's level 3. Wave crashing Elyoya on the way in. Might just be about getting XP at this point. Can he turn this back? So much CC now going down. He's locked up briefly. Elyoya gonna fall! Disaster on the top side. Broken Blade gonna get up 1 or 2 creeps, but otherwise an even trade.
But first, Skyway might be looking to mid, gets the knock up onto Caps. Shield is there, but it's just going to back away. Still, Broken Blade getting that kill back crucial because he's able to TP back into that top side and pick up the majority of those minions.
Exactly as you say, Dagda. It also just gives him a bit of gold. So even though he finds himself at a bit of a CS deficit, just getting 300 gold in an equal exchange is a very nice position to be in. Alvaro's found Mickey. Remember, no flash available for the Leona.
Damage from Yike good. CC to stop Alvaro from stepping too far forward. Braum still terrifying in early skirmishes.
MDK do not want to go out of this series without swinging. They are taking fights everywhere that they can, but haven't quite been able to get a lead out of them thus far. Still control now on this bottom side coming through for MDK. You have Elyoya here clearing out his bot side camps, but can they make much out of it as the wave is going to start to push in? But there's not really a sizable wave to look for any sort of dive here.
Hansama comfortable in this lane. That early kill makes things so much easier to what could have been a very volatile 2v2. And was, at least for the first level. G2 see where they want to put their pressure on the map. Cap still sitting pretty comfortable in mid. Will be forced to TP back as Fresco is able to collapse that wave. Backing with enough gold for a decent item purchase, but may opt instead to stick around a little bit longer.
Keeping track of the summoner spell cooldowns to those bot laners because, of course, thinking about where a potential play could happen as Mirwin, snips up at the top lane. Broken Blade immediately falls back on that exchange, but looks like Yike going to be spotted out.
But when we think about games that have gone awry for G2, a huge amount of it has been cutting off BB from the rest of the team. Finding moments to get him in positions where he's fallen behind. When we look back at the series they played against MDK, it was Mirwin and Corki getting these massive leads, carrying the game from that position. And it feels like MDK are going back to the roots and saying, hey, look, if we cut off the shot caller, cut off the proverbial head of G2, maybe we can find our moments in game 4.
And Aatrox not a champion who loses gracefully. We're going to need a lot of times and a lot of items if he's put at a deficit to really be that threat. So MDK think they found the weakness in the armor. They're going to push again, but Yike is here to cover it again. It will fail. This time, Broken Blade keeps his life, and MDK walk away empty-handed.
The timing from Yike was flawless. The idea from MBK is so good. Another stacked wave. Broken Blade still only level 4. Deny him that, and Mirwin can be the carry of the game. But Yike reads the play too. The communication is good, and they shut it down.
And this is the Yike we've been missing in season finals. He hasn't been finding those successes, hasn't been finding those good counter ganks, but he could have gone bot lane. All of his camps are up, but instead he knew what MDK wanted to achieve. He shuts them down, and now G2 are thriving as a result.
Yike starting the objective. G2, the 2v2 in mid lane, going just fine thus far as they try to push in. Level 4 for both supports. Means there's not a lot to get here. Fresskowy at least threatening, trying to get his wave in a good state.
The idea behind this Yone pick is to struggle a little bit in lane, but then become this kind of split pushing nightmare. Also can still offer a huge amount of value in team fights, but you kind of outscale the Corki, right? Unfortunately, like, Fresskowy was never really given that opportunity in the previous game. I think that he played the lane very well still, but we saw Caps' impact, we saw the pick potential of the Ashe, and Super on this Ashe is now going to have to show us the same. He's been moved up towards the top side. MDK set the sights on Broken Blade once more.
Broken Blade.
Almost level 6.
In trouble, but he's been here before. Level 6 now comes through. Extra healing. Nice sidestep on the initial piece of CC. Q3 buys a bit more time, but it's just not enough. MDK, well played. Third member, the difference maker there. 2, not enough, but 3 will do the trick.
Wherever BB goes, MDK is sure to follow. At least G2 on the top side are getting complete control over the waves. We'll move back, start to get the turret plates themselves, but there's no one really collecting anything here for MDK, so I think it will be potentially just a Dragon Start, although Super and Albro now trying to move top to prevent the tower take.
So many resources invested to setting up Mirwin, but look at the consequences on the other side of the map. Yes, it's a 64 CS to 30 CS advantage on the top side, but on the bot lane, Hans Sommer has a 25 CS lead of his own. Super has been denied so much farm and XP as Caps tests his luck with his team right behind him.
Nice sidestep on the knockup. Q3 avoided from Mickey. MDK just holding on. The problem is with Hans Sommer generating so much pressure, it's so easy for the rest of the team to go to mid lane. Instant cleanse comes out. Might not have even been necessary, but Hans Sommer not going to take the risk.
It's also with Yike finding that early success. He's hit level 6 before Elyoya. The faster clears helping him out as well. So when you're trying to find these fights in a straight up 3v3 around mid, it will be G2 who comes out on top. So now MDK have to get creative and or potentially just go back to the drawing board, as Broken Blade still vulnerable on this bottom side, but I think they have to put the pressure elsewhere now.
Caps taking a lot of damage in the exchange. Not quite enough time for Fresskowy to follow up with the Q3. Valk back. Battle for mid lane. Cryo rages on. Neither side with too big of an advantage, but again, we highlighted it. It's really a story of top lane versus 80 carry here.
Listening to the chants from the crowd. Strong support for G2 as they find themselves with about a 700 gold lead for now. A lot of that advantage coming from Hans Sommer. Dragon looking to be started by MDK. This will be the first one of the game, and it is MDK who have the better setup. Mirwin with a good push. Mid control as well. Caps doesn't have TP as he looks to base. Seems like a difficult contest for G2.
MDK, potential now to try and shift this into bot side. See if they can find some pressure towards Hansam and Mickey. Otherwise, you look at the top left corner of your screen, a minute until those Void Grubs, a potential 6 grub buff, and actually, they're just going to go for the reset now. So I imagine Hansam and Mickey going to waltz their way up towards top side. This is the goal that G2 have in mind. Again, continuing how strong that 6 grub buff has been for both these teams in this series.
You can see Fresskowy wants to be the guy to step up to try to win these exchanges.
And he's
tower
starting
shot in
to.
the process. This is the pressure of the Yone, right? No real mana to worry about. Can just consistently step up and threaten. Decent amount of sustain in the kit as well, but Mickey here to cover Caps as the wave resets. May force the TP out from Caps, just a couple of seconds away, but all of G2 now ready to punish Caps. Just a bit of tasty bait. Mickey not in a great position to follow. Albro there to cover as well.
I think they need to get the push in mid so they can get a reset on Caps. He's so low, you cannot contest this top side of the map with the position that Caps is in, and Super is fishing for that arrow.
Broken Blade finally has a little bit of time alone as Mirwin tries to leverage his lead in the mid lane, but there's just nothing there. There's no play to be had. So has to concede a couple of plates. And this is where 3 grubs that they've already picked up start to pay off even more as the gold lead shrinks a little bit on the top side. or the bottom lane now, I suppose.
Caps gets that reset though, crucially, and MDK haven't started it. Now they go forward.
Caps going in, Frescowi getting chunked out. Q3 used just to escape. Confident in his power on that reset, gives him a bit of life, but Frescowi has no TP.
And that's all that G2 needed. Chunk out the mid laner, now move across. It's two members of MDK trying to delay this, but Supa's resetting. Mirwin's bot side with no teleport, and it's 6 grubs with a patient game from G2.
Certainly is, Dagda. I mean, you called it out clearly. Each step, G2 handled well. 6 grubs secured for G2 as Broken Blade just continues to play on the bot side of the map, doing what he can to weather the pressure. Jhin, not the fastest at taking these towers, but he's going to be able to get himself another plate.
I think this is the G2 a lot of people wanted to see come into this series, though. It was a ropey get-go in season finals where a lot of questions were raised, but coming across the last 2 games of their series and now coming into this series as well, it feels like G2 have found their stride again. They understand how they want to approach the game. This Corki has been massive for Caps, and Hansama continues to impress. A man who didn't get a huge amount of praise over the course of the year, but this season finals has been instrumental to the success of G2.
And G2, we saw in the game 2, they can be that macro team. In this game 4, the confidence in that level 1 to build that early lead now leveraged across the map. The only one still suffering, Broken Blade. The rest of the team sitting pretty, feeling happy. Pressure on Hans to leverage that lead even further in the fights to come. But MDK rapidly falling behind in a match point situation. Means it's kind of all eyes on Mirwin to see if the Gwen is enough. Has the Shroud to deal with the AD carry, the range threats. But it's a tall task.
Sometimes you do just have to be the great attune, though, you know? Everyone is riding on your back and no one really realizes you're there. That's kind of what BB has to do right now. Just be the guy that can support from flank positions, TP in, draw attention. Just try and find some moment to give G2 to continue on this, what's been an onslaught in the early stages apart from himself.
I'm sorry, that was really great for production. The empty chair with the G2 Frio sign. Someone left that one behind after game 1. Hansama reloading. Again, the BF sword and the static. Means normally the only okay wave clear, that much more effective.
I mean, I will say I like this more than the RFC second, because it just gives you a slightly stronger spike.
Yeah, Mosquito has hands now.
Yeah, exactly, Dagda. But again, we kind of turn our attention to the map. It's G2. They pushed away out in top. They have the pressure in bots, the TP flank bots.
Knock one on Hansama, decent. Do they have the follow through? Concussive blows lands, that's big. Mirwin on the backside. They're looking to collect a bounty quickly on the Jhin. A bit of revenge for the bot lane murder earlier on. Donated to Frescowi. Massive shutdown for the Yone. A good pick. It costs a lot, but it's worth the price.
The Guardian keeps Alvaro alive as well. Just barely came up in the nick of time to keep his health bar there. So MDK, they get a pick. And Broken Blade has started to move down to cover Caps in the mid lane, so he doesn't even really get the push on top side. G2 not in a position to fight back at all.
Great use of the TP from MDK. Just a creative way of finding an angle of attack. It splits Hansama and Mickey up. Yike was in the river too, but they knew they created the numbers advantage, and once G2 had realized what was happening, they had to disengage and allow Hansama to fall. Giving that gold over to Frescowi is also going to help close that gap. Get him closer to those spikes. And now, with the Herald up, with Dragon available too, MDK should feel a lot more confident heading into these fights.
There's so little used as well. Sure, Alvaro's ult, but in the grand scheme of things, you are still raring to fight here as MDK. Control over mid is crucial. G2 know it, and they're trying to fight MDK every step of the way as they try and take it.
And despite the shutdown they got, Hansama is still terrifying. You see that quick chunk out onto Alvaro. Boots of Swift is now picked up, which means it'll be that much harder to lock down, especially for the Ashe, or any of the slows that can now come through. Frescowi keeping pressure topside. MDK looking to get 2 things at the same time. G2 responding by going bot lane. Don't feel confident in the fight. Happy to just have Broken Blade be a spectator to these objectives.
Yeah. You have to be a little bit careful. Sorry, I think you have to be a little bit careful here as MDK though, because yes, you're going to end up taking this top side, but there's still moments where I want to see if they're able to control this play on mid, because even though you have Rift Herald, it's very easy for G2 to collapse on you incredibly quickly. They already burnt the TP from Mirwin on towards this spot side play. You can't really look for any sort of play in the mid turret until you have that teleport back up. So MDK need to play patient over the next few minutes. Just wait until they can try and fight G2 on an even footing.
Broken Blade getting aggressive, knows that he has Mickey on the way in. Ulti over from Fresskowy is clean. We'll walk away.
He has the flash. Thought that maybe he would want to use it against Mickey's ultimate, but the ulti never comes through, so he walks away safely. This is the type of pressure you want to be seeing from MDK being generated on a side lane as Fresskowy continues to get stronger. Both mid towers remain strong for now. Alioya with the Herald could look to leverage this to try and break open this mid tier 1 as Myrwn continues to farm, continues to scale in the side lane.
Lost chapter there. See how he wants to approach this build of his death cap second to Yike. The Grubs remain really good at taking towers. No creep wave needed. A single one will do.
And it's hilarious to see because G2 at the start of the year were a Void Grub team. They would so consistently look for this 6 grub buff, but they kind of disappeared with it and decided it wasn't really worthwhile. We go for Dragons instead, but now they're coming back. And Myrwn, does he hop over the wall?
Now Myrwn waiting, does a lot of damage. The Shroud, though, going to fade away. Moves out of it to reset the cooldown, at least for a brief moment. Gives himself a bit more time. And now Alioya has been caught out. Curtains have been called. Down goes the boar. Alvaro going to try his best to body block. But just a single pick for G2.
It was MDK setting up a pick as G2 setting up for the rotation to catch the bot wave. But they target the Leona. This is not a target that you can lock down. Aftershock, the W, it's just too tanky. And that means that Alioya gets punished. Another kill in favor of G2.
And the fact that Alioya is off the map means that the Rift Tower gets delayed as well. Your positioning on the map becomes that much more difficult to try and control. And it's these little moments where G2 are getting these edges and leads, getting the waves in their favor, that is making it so difficult for MDK to try and continue at all when they find their own little advantages. So right now G2 get to open up on mid again. You've got Mickey who's just helping escort Broken Blade's wave in topside, but I have a feeling they're about to collapse on Supa in this mid lane. See if they can blow summoner spells before the dragon spawns in 245.
It is very scary for MDK that Hans Sama is a super small amount of gold away from completing that Infinity Edge. Only 18 minutes into the game. Ash needs time to do damage, and that is time Supa will not have if Hans Sama is able to connect with those autos. Trap set up to stop any potential flank. Mickey covering the vision as well. MDK trying to fight back, regain a bit of control. We're still 2 minutes out from the Drake, as you highlighted, so won't mean much yet, but might help on the next reset.
I think you can tell how MDK want to play this game, though. Look at the trinkets that they have in their pockets. Sweepers across the board. They are playing for vision denial, information denial, and trying to play off of Supa and Alvaro. See if you can find these quick picks with the Ash Arrow, but G2 just aren't giving it to them. They're like, cool, we will happily wait. We know we can push out waves. We don't have to extend past the river. We're taking safe routes through our jungle, and we can always wave clear.
Fresskowy waiting off to the side, but the wave not in a great position. A lot of respect paid to G2 there, not to overcommit on the push.
The sweepers on MDK trying to deny. And G2 testing the waters. Pockets of vision here and there. Fresskowy continues to scale on the side lane. Caps doing something similar. Myrwn sees his chance. Invests the... Wait, maybe I missaw.
No,
he does invest the ultimate.
That's the ulti gone.
And that's everything gone. Caps sees his window.
Teamfight power gone. Flash forward. Perfectly aimed. Mickey. Yet another kill for G2.
And just quick punishments as Myrwn tries to step up. He already used the Shroud, so there's nothing that can stop Mickey's ultimate crashing down on top of him. And again, G2 get more control. Dragon in a minute's time. Baron is going to spawn very soon as well. So the next time that pick happens, it could be far more severe for MDK.
The game only getting more difficult as the gold lead continues to mount. 6 Grubs, 3K in the favor of G2, and Hans Sama now with the Infinity Edge completed. MDK sweeping, trying to find that angle, trying to find these creative picks, but have to be careful not to get caught out. Their next mistake would be their last. The game still within reach as the Malignance is completed for Myrwn. Many more ults to come, but needs one to hit in the coming fights.
It feels tense as the teams continue to trade back and forth, but it does feel like that G2 is just gaining slightly more control. Simply because you press tab, you're in game, you see the Corki, Trinity Force Muramana, you see Jhin, Static Shift Infinity Edge, and you're like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to fight that right now, especially when you contrast the animation. Mewin is the only one that has his second item finished. You have to imagine that for Scowie and Super, well, Super's probably not close at all. And so you just kind of have to concede the dragon, and that means the bit by bit more control. I say that, MDK is posturing.
Need to fight, want to find an angle, lock up there, Broken Blade immediately goes on to Supa. Supa really no room to play at all, forced to use the arrow early, knocking from Alvaro to keep his 80 carry standing. Frescowie over the wall, force shot for Hans Sama.
Gwen?
Not gonna matter much, but the curtain is called. The angle, hitting the rocket to follow. Alvaro body blocks the force shot, but it was the Corki he should have watched out for.
I thought it was the sniper, but it's the heat-seeking missile that's coming in on the opposite side.
Mickey.
And Mirwin was trying to flank. Do they find him low? They walked past the bush that little bit too late, but Mirwin just wasn't there. He tried the TP for a flank, and G2, they'd already gone for the engage.
We talked about these item spikes and how crucial they are for G2. And they're poised for this fight. They're ready. They want to take it. They've got Broken Blade over the wall. He immediately turns his attention to Super, who has to use the arrow defensively. The TP then comes in from the Corki, and it's already a 5v4. MDK's forced to retreat. The Gwen flank looks good, but it can't convert into anything. And then shot after shot, they connect onto Elyoya, and MDK is forced to fall.
And falling behind against the Jhin is infuriating because you just cannot get out of a fight on your own terms. The curtain call comes out, the slows, the damage comes out. Well, MDK were close to walking away with only a single casualty, losing more in the process, as now they just try to hold on to a bit of control topside. Jhin obviously terrible at taking the Baron, but the Brand, the Aatrox, the Corki will balance things out, so an objective that has to be respected. Caps seeing the angle, knowing the soul unbound, forcing Frescowie to come back, but he has the Q3 to escape. That said, Caps completely unafraid, but the damage for Frescowie is big. Needs to be perfect here. Dashes in, one more soul unbound, dash through. Cap's gonna be able to find him. Q3 hoping to find it, can snap back, but doesn't have the time. There's no tenacity for the Yone. He's easy pickings for that Leona.
Frescowie snaps back to reality, and it is quickly snuffed out. Caps does not give him the opportunity, but he can't do it alone. Frescowie shows how powerful he is on the side lane. Mickey there to assist once more. And it just continues to add up. The pressure really starting to weigh for MDK. The reality of their situation is that this game is very quickly getting out of their hands.
And we thought maybe this was a moment for MDK. They had looked so good. They took down G2. Maybe this rookies could do things.
Flash, Mirwin locked up. This is big. The Gwen damage, their sole source of a lead. Now they're able to fire back, but the current call is finally here. Oh, and it's the miss phase. G2 strike back. Super trying to backstep as best he can, but Broken Blade, despite the deficit, his team is there to carry the fight through. A triple for your MVP.
The rookies are being slaughtered. G2 have no respect for what could have been. They want to end this. They want to make it what should have been.
Frescowie trying to find the 1v1, should still be favored, but the root from Hans Sama! Oh! It's rage-inducing! It could have been his, but the Jhin was there from 3,000 range to seal the deal. And now the Baron falls in favor of G2 MDK. They wanted to upset the apple cart. They wanted to tell us a new story, not Fnatic and G2, something different, a new era. But G2 will not let that happen.
MDK. They thought that they caught out Hans Sama. If nothing else, they've isolated him from the fight. Leona starts the initiation. Hans really can't get involved. That is until he throws out the ultimate. But look how quickly Mirwin drops. Stunned up, destroyed by Yike and Caps. And then MDK have to retreat. It's really been the story of the game where the TPs are just coming in too late. They're always at a numbers disadvantage. And Caps on the Corki. It's been a problem this whole series. They didn't take it away from him. And it will be G2 with the Baron.
A siege on bot side may be the undoing of MDK. The Baron available still for 2 more minutes. It's going to be so tough for MDK to get back in the map. My God, that is some damage.
And while there are a lot of supporting members of this particular cast, in Game 4, it is the Caps show in those team fights. MDK holding, buying as much time as they can. A minute 45, they have to hold on. It's one step at a time with this kind of deficit. One objective, one ward, one mid-wave. Anything and everything they can do to regain some control, to get the gold where they need it most. Mirwin has the components, wants to complete the death cap.
but how do you try and get that opportunity? G2 are controlling everything. Wards being dropped where they once stood. Nothing on the map is available for MDK, and G2 continue the slow roll, that slow movement in to the base of MDK.
MDK, Celestial opposition burn from Alvaro. Using the resources they have to at least slow the push. They'll likely have to concede the tier 2, but Mirwin looking for a different angle.
They want caps.
Caps. Their eyes on the prize. It'll likely cost them a tier 2, maybe more, but Caps trying to come through, trying to find the damage going in onto Mirwin. Thinks he can win the 1v1 in the meantime. Needlework coming in, 1,000 gold to Mirwin for the top side. What else will they give? What else will they pay for the shutdown onto Caps? The base falling apart, the tower breaking, but the inhibitor still stands. A desperate maneuver from the side of MDK, but it gets them a little bit back in return.
I mean, that's the best type of play that MDK can look for right now. It secures the death cap for Mirwin. Just buy time, wait for that opportunity. You're kind of doing everything you can to find that miracle play. Super though, he's already there.
The curtain's open. MDK overconfident. The arrow there. Frescowi now trying to turn this one back, but it's too little. They've given up 2. That jungle does not belong to them.
They needed to slow for the dragon. They thought they could get the bounty, but G2 took off and they just immediately turned it around, and now they're scrambling. G2, they want to end this.
G2 may have faltered in the first series versus MDK. They may have been caught off guard, but in the final moments of this game 4, they refuse to fall. Can Mad Lions Koi say the same? Mirwin finding the first kill, the fight kicking off. Everything comes down to this Gwen. Frescowi there as well. Flash out from Hans Sama buys them a bit more time. They will stay standing.
A dangerous situation for MDK to find themselves in. The base is in tatters, pressure across the boards. The fans are hungry for one more fight. And G2 is looking to give it to them. Resets need to come through. Gold needs to be spent. HP needs to be replenished. MDK will find a window though. They've secured a mid tower. Get a little bit more gold. Mirwin is really... Oh wait, but they know that they're on the dragon. They think that they can just go for the end.
G2.
No TP available on Mirwin.
Creativity coming through. They don't have the angle.
They hold off. They decide not to. They'll give over the bounty. Now the resets from G2 will finally come through.
Mirwin has to be the difference maker for Mad Lions Koi though. With the Malignants and now the Rabadons and even the Seeker's Armguard now picked up. He can play very aggressive. The lack of Ghost is going to make it tough for trying to find access to the back line. But that damage is going to ricochet through G2 if he gets a chance.
Likely the most pressure Mirwin has ever been under across his entire career, knowing that he has the power in a clutch moment in a single fight to perhaps bring back hope, to bring silver scrapes here in Munich. But it has to be him. The team has to set him up. It is all eyes on this Gwen. G2 seemingly on a victory lap. The only way MDK can stop them is that needlework.
1 minute until Baron. MDK have to control not only the Baron but their base as well. G2 have shown they are more than happy to try and trade some of these objectives for control of MDK's base. They have pushes. They are starting to get some vision outside their base, but they need to desperately hold on before that objective spawns.
G2 make their way back out onto the map. Infinity Edge finish for Caps. The Baron alive in 20 seconds. This could be the miracle moment for MDK, a Baron flip. A small misjudge, a misplay from G2. Could be all it takes. Super. Yeah, Alvaro, good read there. Recognizes how much danger his AD carry is in, but he's going to pay the price.
Losing so much health, manages to find the knockup button too, but Mirwin's not in a position. He's not set up. MDK. The rage from G2 and Broken Blade. Despite the early game is here. Needlework now coming in. Yike gonna be in trouble. Mirwin trying to bring this one back. The ulti good. He goes golden, but it's just enough time to watch his team die before his eyes. Frescowi though, on some out. Is it enough? Can the Yone do it? Q3 now coming through. There's 3 members on top of him. It is not. G2 in the LEC. Winter, spring, and summer. Through the lower bracket, they'd have
no other way. The season final stands in front of them. G2 and Fnatic, as it was before, as it is again, it is inevitable. G2 return to the finals.
Smiles across the faces of the G2 players as they return to the season finals once more for a rematch against Fnatic. MDK did what many did not expect them to do. From 10th place, winning the tiebreakers, falling in the playoffs, into having an incredible run in the season finals. They will still be going to Worlds, but today was not their day. It is G2 that stands tall and returns to the finals once more.
It may be the road less traveled for G2, but sometimes you need that journey to find yourself along the way, and it certainly feels like G2 have found themselves once more as they move to finals.
And I don't know what we call this level of domestic dominance. For G2, the dominance is a road well traveled, certainly not a golden road, but close to winning every possible trophy here domestically. Vote for your Kia Player of the Series at LEC on X, Caps, Hansama, or Mickey X. Your options from game one being dominated, picked apart with creative picks to an absolute masterclass across games 2, 3, and 4. But for now, our hearts go out to MDK. A chance to show us even more on the world stage against the best League of Legends has to offer.
And even though they fell here today, they should be incredibly proud of what they've achieved. A team that everyone doubted coming in winter has now shown that they belong at the top tier of the LEC. A team that will proudly represent us on that world stage. But unfortunately, when it is against a behemoth like G2, it can't always go your way.
I mean, they show us new picks, they've showed us some crazy stuff, and even though things didn't work out today, I'm excited for what they can show us on the world stage. There's going to be new patches, there's going to be changes. I'm excited to see what these rookies will be able to cook up for us. But as we bid farewell to them, it only bodes more excitement for the rematch. G2 versus Fnatic, a series that we've seen a number of times throughout the year. One where it's gone back and forth. But we're poised for an exciting day tomorrow.
And we heard from Humanoid after that game one, absolute confidence. Both teams are terrible, he said. He does not care. We know that man is motivated by competition, waiting for G2 tomorrow. Having the chance to dissect everything they did today. Surely set to be an incredible best of 5.
But something we wanted to see from G2 was a greater degree of confidence, stronger early games, and I think they showed us great patient play, good approach to draft, and they just picked Corki more, which I think had to be a big shift from their BDS series, and I think that they've done a great job in terms of shifting that priorities and then executing on the day.
Also, big step up from Yike. Massive performance on the brand. Able to find these great counter ganks that he's been so good at all year long. It feels like G2 are finally firing on all cylinders again.
And credits Broken Blade. Weathered the storm in that early game, was relevant in those late game fights. You talked about it. Sometimes when G2 fall apart, it's because Broken Blade is getting put down. That was not what happened in this game 4. It was Hansama and Mickey who stood up early. The rest of G2 who brought it home as we went later into that specific game. But we asked at the start of the day, hey, G2 early game, what's it going to look like? Outside of game one, it looks pretty damn good, boys. And I think Fnatic maybe a little less confident than they were after that first game.
They're going to be full of confidence. We'll see if they can deliver on the stage, of course, but G2 versus Fnatic, it's always a banger. I mean, we are, of course, just setting up on stage for an interview, it looks like, with Broken Blade and Mickey. I'm excited to see what the Top Father has to say for us. He got bullied a lot in Game 5, but he was able to have an impact still later on in the team fights. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? Nothing but excited for tomorrow's best of 5.
Yeah, especially when even on the Euphoria podcast, G2 were like, Fnatic is the best early game team.
Oh yeah.
They got tested here by MDK, but the real test is tomorrow, and Fnatic are going to be hungry to take back what they feel like should have been theirs coming in summer. If they can finally dethrone G2 in season finals, what an absolute banger.
Tomorrow, certainly, that best of 5 going to be a tall task. For now, let's focus again on today. Shox standing by with Broken Blade and Mickey X in the Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in.
I sure am. Broken Blade and Mickey, congratulations, making it to the grand final tomorrow. Broken Blade, I'll go to you first.
Congratulations, and I know that you have a lot of family and friends in the crowd. So, yeah, how happy are you that you were able to show this performance in front of them?
I'm very happy. I'm very glad they're here witnessing my victory. Also, I want to show them a great victory tomorrow. I'm very thankful they're here. So thank you for being here with me.
A follow-up, let's talk about the games a little bit as well. We had the pre-interview with Mirwin. You didn't seem worried, I have to say. Did you find as many obstacles that you had to overcome in this series, or did you feel from very early on that you had them figured out?
I think we had them figured out from game one. I think game one was our mistake. We kind of griefed, but that's kind of the G2 Classic, you know, the content game.
It is. Mickey, especially for you, after you guys lost that first game, because big quotes on Reddit, we're going to 3-0 them, they don't have a chance. Were you getting a little nervous after that game one, or were you as confident as your top laner?
I mean, I was definitely a little bit nervous, but I knew that when Cap stops like first timing champions, we're going to win. So that was nice. And again, I mean, also, my family also here, and then last time they were here, we lost 0-3 to FPX. So I was a bit sweating after game one when we were 0-1, but we broke the curse now. Good job.
I see, you want to make up for them. Mickey, I don't know if you saw it, but there was an LCK interview earlier today, and Lehens actually said that he took some inspiration from you. Is that, you know, does that do anything to a support, knowing that Lehens is watching your VODs intently?
I mean, I did notice he gets caught quite often when I watch the games, so I can see it. But yeah, that sounds pretty nice. Like, I also watch his games, so yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll see you hanging out at Worlds. Broken Blade, when it comes to the grand final, it is a matchup we have seen many, many times, and it has gone different ways at times, but most of the time you've come out on top. Now, we did have an interview with Humanoid. You probably didn't hear because it was after game one. And he said he was so confident it's going to be an easy 3-0 regardless of who it is. Fnatic is at their top. Is there anything you want to say about that?
I mean, now we have the momentum after we won on stage. That we'll have to become prepared, or they're just going to lose.
Okay, you're talking to. Do you want to say anything to the crowd in German for tomorrow?
Sure. Vielen Dank fürs Kommen und für euren Support. Bedeutet mir sehr viel.
Awesome. Mickey, would you like to say anything in German?
Dankeschön.
Super, Dankeschön. Und wir gehen zu PGL. We're going to PGL, and G2 is in the final tomorrow. Okay, let's see if you can hear this. What did you think of this first game?
Oh, I think both teams look really bad. Honestly, I wasn't impressed, and I think tomorrow is going to be a free win.